Hey guys, this is Ashley and Rex, and this is She Wolf Alchemy. And today our topic is gentle parenting the Black child.
Yes. So this topic kind of came about um because me and some actually other girlfriends were kind of just actually me and you have had this conversation too over because as you guys know, Ashley is a mommy now.
Yay!
And the conversation has just came up a couple times, I feel like over this summer of just kind of like older generations and
Mhm.
and the critiques of our gentle parenting style now and just some of the differences. Me and Nika had this conversation a couple times. I thought it was a good idea for us to kind of explore, particularly what is like gentle parenting the Black child, because I feel like there is this like divide on what exactly gentle parenting means. I feel like
Mhm.
for some of us, we're like gentle parenting means like being in tune with your child's emotional needs and growing around your child and growing with your child instead of forcing your child to meet you where you are and
Mhm.
being like, this is going to be your life for the next 18 years.
Mhm.
And on the flip side of that, there are some people that like seem to believe gentle parenting is you let your child do whatever you want, and that's why they weak and they're gonna be running these streets and they're gonna be running all over you.
Yeah. Well, I'd also like to add to the description of gentle parenting. I think it's more like guiding than forcing anything. Like teach instead of always punishing. Like
Yeah.
using things as a teachable moment instead of being like, I'm gonna kick your butt. And one example, there's a woman who like this is her jam, like it's her work, and I remember hearing her on a podcast talking about it. And then I so had the good fortune of being at like a conference and she was speaking on it.
Mhm.
And one of the things she brought up was how people love to use the Bible in this regard and be like, spare the rod, you spoil the child.
Yes.
And it's actually not a proper interpretation because if you think about it, like a shepherd doesn't take their rod and beat their sheep.
Yeah.
They use it to gently guide them, to
Mm.
pull them or nudge them into the right direction, not to beat them. So I don't even know. I know how we came up with that interpretation, but um, it's ridiculous when you really think about it.
It is. And kind of like you said, when I'm thinking of gentle parenting, I'm thinking more again, like I'm thinking more so like I'm raising this child to be emotionally intelligent, self-aware, empathetic, but also as I'm raising them to do that, I am practicing it with them. So it's not this do as I say type of thing. I am actively practicing what emotional intelligence is. I'm actively practicing what self-awareness is. And not only are you seeing me practice with others, but I'm practice it with you. And so in turn, I am raising this child to go off to in the world with the rest of y'all children to be a good citizen who is
Mhm.
empathetic and aware that other people matter. And I just feel like if we could all get on board on that, you
Yeah.
know, we could change the world.
It doesn't seem so crazy, does it?
Feels like it should not seem that crazy. Um, and so like one of the things I think about all the time when I think about this topic is how me and you were reading bell hooks. And you know how I felt about bell hooks. But me and you were reading bell hooks. Don't. I won't go there. I won't go there. But me and you were reading bell hooks. I remember we were reading it together and we were having the discussion with one of your friends about all about love. And she has a chapter about spanking children and how like in any other sense, she gives the example of like if a woman came in here and was like, my partner is hitting me, we would all be appalled. We would all be like, oh my gosh, what do you mean they're hitting you? You have to
Mhm.
get out this situation. This is abusive. But we can't seem to understand how beating your children is like, hey, you're a person who's supposed to be a safe place for this person, and you're not. And they have to fear you. Your relation with them is based on fear,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the rest of us see it as acceptable. And I remember us having this conversation, and think especially with Black folks, it's kind of hard for us to touch on it because
Mhm.
so many of us was raised on like get the belt. I was
Mhm.
raised on get the belt.
Mhm.
I didn't get spanked a lot as a child, but I did get spanked. I thankfully came in a household that believed in spanking, but I was one of those kids that was like, all you gotta do is look like you want to get the belt and I'ma stop. Like that's all. I don't like pain. I don't like
Mhm.
physical pain. Like you it's fine.
Mhm.
Um But I remember it's like having this moment, we had like a really good conversation about it, like, you know what, that is right. But there was still like a little piece, and we talked about there's still a little piece of us that's like, but like,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
what if they don't listen after timeout? Like, but like, it is
Then what?
right. This is abuse. We should not be hitting babies. But like, also,
Yeah.
what about the hard headed ones?
Yeah. I think some of it too, though, is realizing that there's so much that has to go in on the front end, depending on what type of, especially depending on what type of child you have, that's like to avoid even being in a scenario where you're like, okay, time out didn't work and I gotta hit them. And I think that's a challenge for people. Like, for example, when people like to make fun of gentle parenting online, they'll show a video, like there's a video of like, first of all, a toddler. I'm not sure why you would hit a toddler. They're way too little, even if you do believe in spanking, but um, that was like playing with something that the mom didn't want her playing with. And she was just sitting there recording, going, stop it, leave that alone, leave it alone. And then she eventually ended up screaming at the kid and was like, put it back. Blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, she jumped, startled her, and then she stopped. And she was like, see, the gentle parents and stuff don't work. You got to be woo, 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 woo. Okay, well, if you actually wanted her to stop playing with it, you were supposed to get up and take the item from her
Yeah.
and then redirect her to something else. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Disappearance doesn't mean don't intervene, don't try to stop what's going on, don't redirect. It doesn't mean any of those things. That's permissive.
Yeah. And like here, and my thing with that, and I think you bring up a good point, is like violence in any situation should never be your first go to. Whether it is like, even if we're talking about adults, like it shouldn't
Fair.
be your
Yeah.
first go through. And I feel like we understand that. And he, like adult relationships, like, did you communicate with him?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, did you tell him it hurt your feelings before we burnt down his car? Did we warn him? Like you have steps, but when you talk about it with children, it's kind of like he knew better. He's 5. I don't think he did. Like
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he did it, but I told him not to. Yeah, but, like, again, he's 5, he has a short attention span. Like,
Mhm.
so after you said, "Don't do that," and I get it, I very much too would like him not to do that after the first time, but he's 5. He's not an abstract thinker yet. They're still in the concrete thinking stage.
Mhm.
They'll go, "Okay, don't do that. Ooh, a butterfly. Oh, yeah, let's do that again." That's how their brain works at that point in
Mhm.
time. Why is it that we automatically go to, okay, spank? Because now I'm gonna teach you not to do that. Why is that the first go to? Like, even if you're like, I don't know, girl, I can't let go of the spanking. Are we trying steps? Are we
Mhm.
trying steps? Because I feel like when I've had this conversation with folks, because like I don't spank my daughter.
Mhm.
Every blue moon, she might get a tap on the hand, and even that's rare. And don't get me wrong, every now and then she does some stuff that make me reconsider. Like I really, because I feel like also when I hear people talking about it, people are just like, "Yeah, and it works great, and if you have patience, it works great." And I'm here to tell you, like, yeah, okay, it is, but it's a struggle. There is times there's
Mhm.
times I just got an email from her teacher earlier today where I was just like, her daddy might have a point. Like, I
Mhm. Mhm.
definitely had moments. Um, but I feel like when I'm having these conversations with folks, like, even the idea of taking steps feels like, why you
Yes.
why you debating with a child?
Yes. Yes.
They're a little person. They have ideas and
Yes.
feelings too. And like me, you know my daughter. She's very
Mhm.
much a debater. And people think it's wild to like I have a 7-year-old that likes to debate.
Mhm.
And I have to explain, like, okay, but she has I want her to know her feelings matter. And I love that she feels comfortable enough to talk to me. And it's such
Yeah.
one of the things I say about her all the time, she has such amazing personality traits for a 27-year-old. It's just that she's now 7. And parenting them is very hard. She's gonna be such a strong woman. That's gonna be great, but she's a strong 7-year-old and it's frustrating.
So to your point, it brings me back to this concept that I learned about earlier this year that I was like, oh, I love it, of childism. We got all the other isms, but they're like, so childism is a newer one,
It's
which
always
is
a new one
basically,
for me to learn. Okay. All right. Good
yeah,
to know.
where I mean, it's basically where we people think that they are above children,
Okay.
right? Like it is a status, and that's literally what it is. Like we treat children a certain way because we treat them like they're second class citizens. Your opinion doesn't matter. I'm not arguing with no child.
Yeah.
Usually, when you feel disrespected by someone, a lot of us will say, "Don't talk to me like I'm a child," or "Don't treat me like I'm a child," because in reality, that's the way that a lot of people treat children, straight up disrespect. And we see that as they deserve that because you haven't, I guess, lived long enough to deserve to argue with me or question me because I am the superior as an adult and you are just simply a child. And I think that too is what makes people feel that they have the right to put their hands on kids. Like that's what leads to it. Because just like you said, like most people recognize that that's not an appropriate way to treat your partner or your friend or your coworker, anybody in your life that you're like, I would like for you to do this, and they're like, no, you don't go. Well, I'm gonna beat you until you do. That's not. Or if you don't,
Yeah.
you're gonna get it. Go
Yeah.
get the belts.
Most people
Go and
don't have a relationship that is, I'm nice to you sometimes, but the other times I use threats. And that is our relationship.
Yeah, nobody wants to be friends with that person.
Mhm. And you know what's crazy though? It makes me think about like millennials is probably like the first generation that has such high numbers of cutting off their parents, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
We
Yeah.
have high numbers, and I there's lots of reasons for that. There's lots of,
Mhm.
but
Mm.
I do think a big part of that is like for a lot of us, if you treat me as a second class citizen my entire life, and now I get the option to have to deal with you.
Straight up. Yeah.
Why would I want to be your friend now when you were never my friend before? Why would I want to be your friend now when you've never been nice to me? Why would I
Mhm.
want to be, why would I want to, why move you into my house?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
go to the nursing home.
Yeah.
Remember? You fed me, kept a roof over my head. So that was you doing your job. Same, twin. Same. And I think a big part of that is, again, you grew up being treated as a second class citizen, where it's kind of like you do as I say, don't ask me no questions, get me the belt. And now we're having like this huge number of people. I mean, I see it all the time. My algorithm's crazy, so that's part of that. But I see it all the time, like videos of people talking about like how they had to cut off their parent or whatever, and there's parents like in the comments like, my children won't talk to me, and I sent them off to college, and I was a good mother, and only one out of the five, and I'm like, you did something. One out of
Mhm.
five, you did something to that child.
Mhm. One woman, she was like on a rant, like she was the mom that was, I guess, not nice to her kid. She was the mom cut off by her kids. And she was saying, oh, my child thinks that I owed her a trauma-free life. And was like going on and like, first of all, ma'am, one, yes, none of us are gonna go through life unscathed, but you weren't supposed to be the source of that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the same kind of like when we talk about relationships and people are like, marriage is hard.
Mhm.
And it's like, right, but your partner is not supposed to be the one making it hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we said
Life.
marriage is hard, it's supposed to be like because financial reasons, and you have different things are happening in you guys' life, and you have to learn how to you as a unit, not because he don't like you and is mean to you
Right.
in front of company. Well,
Right.
that shouldn't be the obstacle you're overcoming. Not Tammy. Tammy wasn't who
Right.
y'all was supposed to overcome.
Right. So the same the same with your child. Like, yes, your child is gonna go through adversity, but you're not supposed to be the
That
adversity.
person. You should not be your child's first bully.
No, and a lot of people are, unfortunately. Yeah.
Good.
One other thing on this topic, though, that I know I've had to come up on as being a new parent, is when you have to let your Black family know that you will not be continuing the tradition.
Yeah.
Um, and so far, I haven't had any major issues. 'Cause my sister's only 16, so she's had her second run at parenting. And with my sister, she learned like, oh, I don't really want to do this.
Mhm.
It wasn't really the vibe anyway. It wasn't really her vibe when I was younger anyway. It happened, but it wasn't her like main go-to
Mhm.
focus. So by the time my sister came along, she was like, I'm older and wiser. I don't need to hit children.
Mhm.
So telling her was like, yeah, duh, of course.
Mhm.
But one of the challenges, as I told you, It's co-parenting, having a whole nother person and family and all that that you have to get involved in things and have to have those conversations with to be like, hey, look, we're not gonna do this. And so we haven't fully crossed that bridge, but it is a bridge that has to be crossed. And I know in my other podcast on Parents Are People, like I've had someone on who was sharing about that, like what it was like trying to set those boundaries with her family and having to deal with them feeling upset, disrespected, all sorts of things, and then they have to deal with their own feelings of, well, what are you saying about the way that I raised you?
Girl, girl, girl. Trying to talk about like what you're trying to do now, it always stings because they're like, well, but I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had 10 years of therapy. Yeah, you did that. You did
You
that.
did do
Thank
that.
you. Thank you for that. I do want to talk on the co-parenting part because like I have a co-parent. Me and my child's father are not together. We are great co-parents, but we still parent very differently. There's a very big difference in my household and his household.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually going through a period right now where like not to brag, but I'm winning at just being like parent of the year. But me and him recently had to have this conversation because like I have a daughter. And so like from, you know, like 2 to like 5, she's a girl, so she was a daddy's girl, and I had to suck it up. Like, I ruined my body for you. Why did you like, no, but like I labored very
Mm-hmm.
intensely and went through a lot of pain to come here and fed you from my breast. Why he get all the high fives? Me want high fives too. But me and him had to have this talk, like it's gonna switch. So now she's back on like team mommy. And I told him recently, like, it's okay. She's gonna turn 12 in a couple years and it's
Mm-hmm.
gone until she's 18. It's fine. That will be your territory. But like one of the things with us is like our households are very, very different and have we disagree about spanking. Now,
Mm-hmm.
luckily we have a child where like it doesn't really have to be brought up a lot because while my child definitely marches to the beat of her own drummer, a lot of stuff with her is that she marches to the beat of her own drummer. It's not disrespect. Like
Mm-hmm.
she ain't terrorizing the neighborhood. Like she ain't
Mm-hmm.
cussing out teachers. She's not doing stuff like that. If anything, it's more so the teacher told her to sit down and she's like, why? And she wants the teacher to explain it to her because she doesn't feel like sitting and she can do this activity standing up and she wants you to explain to her and make it make sense to her before she sit. That's the type of stuff we're dealing with. And it feels ridiculous to spank for that. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
she has a question. It does not make sense to her. That makes sense. But also now we have to teach her, hey, there's a time and a place. When you're in certain situations, you have to respect certain authority. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to want to ask, okay, why I have to do this, but you have to also know when you need to sit down. And it's been hard because though she's not a child that we have a lot of situations that wouldn't most people would bring up spanking in every now and then, and we have a very different approach to it. And it's kind of hard because you come to my house and you're used to, I mean, her mom's a therapist, so she's used to communication. Let's talk out. Let's talk about why you did this. These are alternative things that you could have done or could have thought about. Let's challenge that cognition to going with her dad, who very much is like, I said, sit down. You got 3 seconds to sit. And it can be really, I think, hard on a child. And I think if you can try to be on the same team, and it's not always. And me and him have a great relationship. That's the big homie. I'm the big homie. But we still have things that we disagree about and that we can't. And it does cause a lot of confusion for my child. Like she know the other day she had got in trouble and she had called me. It was like, hey, can I come to you? Can I go to this house today? And I was like, mommy's working and why? And she was like, no, nothing. And then I found out later because she got in trouble in school. She was like, I like your approach. Trouble. So if I
I
could
don't
be
like
at
that.
your house tonight, that would be great. Definitely try to finagle some things. But I bring that up to say, like, it can be very hard because me and him are having the conversation. Um, I was a sneaky child, but I was a sneaky child because of whoopings. I was a sneaky child because there wasn't a lot of conversation. There was an automatically like, we're going to punishment. Even if the punishment's not whooping, they automatically go to punch it. It made me sneaky. But her father was a bad child. Okay. He was a bad ass kid, peanut head type child, silver tooth child. And so for him, he looks at it like, yeah, it kept me on track, because I would mess up and then spank me and I would chill out for a whole 48 hours. And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, but like then you will start back up again. That's
Right.
what
Which means you
happened.
did it.
What you mean they did not work?
But they'll be the ones that be like, I deserved every single I got. I earned it.
He thinks it made him stronger and a better person. And I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
I have comments on that. But
Mhm.
it can be, like, very hard, and so, like, not even talk about, like, talking to older family members, sometimes your own partner, that
Yeah.
could be a very big difference, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
even so of, like, if you're a person who has a blended family, like, I am dating and, a person I dated a while ago, like, I remember, like, we got to the point that it was like, "Okay, let's talk about me and each other's kids, whatever," and they very much believed in discipline.
Mm.
They very much believed in, like, yelling, and I was, like, taken aback because you're so sweet and kind to me. You're so sweet and
Mm.
loving to me, and the way that I try to do my parenting with my child is I if I treat anybody good, it's gonna be you. There should be
Mm.
nobody else in my life that you look at it like, "Dang, I wish she treated me like them. She treat them better." You
Mm.
are the pinnacle of how I treat
Mm.
humans.
Mm. That's deep. Yeah.
And it was something that, like, me and him really got into a really big thing, and it's like, dang, how do you also reconcile that if, like, I am going into partnership and it's again, it don't even have to be we're trying to blend a family. It can be we are 2 single people. We
Oh, yeah.
Look, one of the things I tell folks, because a lot of times when people have babies, especially that beginning phase, you see people breaking up, and people are always like, "Dang, y'all ain't even make it to a
Mhm.
year or whatever." And I
Mhm.
think it's because also you don't have certain conversations,
Mhm. Mhm.
and
Mhm.
people don't really take in consideration how big knowing that our parenting styles work together is for a relationship if you're going to be a family.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'm grateful that prior to my child even being a twinkle in his daddy eye, we had this, we were having these conversations because it was something I felt so strongly about because of my own upbringing.
Yeah.
That like if I found a podcast, and we weren't initially on, it was more like I hear you, but if he
Mhm.
do something, I might still do it, you
Yeah.
know? And but pretty much every podcast that came about on the topic, article, TikTok, whatever, I was sending it. Like, I need you to listen to this. I need you to understand this, just because also other people can say things in ways that I can't. But also it's like I'm not just coming from an emotional standpoint. This is like based on research and other things, and there's like other ways of thinking about this. And so that helped tremendously to where by the time we were about to have our child together, it was like we're on the same page. We
Yeah.
know all of our reasons. We don't need to defend our reasons, but should we be asked, we know why this is the approach that we're taking. And we know, we understand the harm of this other approach and why we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But like 100%. And even if you aren't even sure about that conversation, pay attention to just what are their thoughts on how children should be treated at all. I think you can tell a lot up front if people are like, oh, well, kid, they just need to stay in their place and they just need to. And somebody that's talking like that, that may clue you in a little bit if they don't already have kids.
Mhm.
You can see them around. Like, ask them their ideas, explore those. Like, that is a very important topic because I think it matters. Now, you can in theory say, oh, I'm going to parent a certain way, and then yeah, your kids show up and y'all could go totally different directions. It happens, but I think you can avoid it again by a lot of conversations up front, but just in general, what is their attitude towards children?
Yeah. And
That'll
I
kind of give you some insight. Mm.
And I know we've talked about a lot of spanking and stuff, but it goes beyond spanking because, like, when we're talking about gender parenting again, do they believe in talking to their child? Do they believe in getting to know their child? That for me, I know was like a really, really big thing also because of my upbringing. I have great parents. 2 of them are great. One's not so much, but I have mostly I have great. My mom and my stepdad were great parents, but unfortunately, like during my time, because my siblings are a lot older than me, there's a lot of space between me and most of my siblings, except for my brother Curtis, who lived in another state. But during the time that I was growing up was very different than my brothers and so forth. Because like I had a sibling that died when I was when I was like 12.
Mhm.
My mom had to deal with her name being in the news every day. We had to deal with we had a lot of different things happening when I was growing up. And so my parents were really great and really nurturing. However, they didn't really have conversations with me.
Mhm.
They didn't really It's hard to grieve the loss of one of your children and still be
Mhm.
emotionally there and available, and
Mhm.
I completely understand that, and I don't fault them for that. They really had some real life shit going on. It just sucks that it happened during my childhood.
Mm.
However, because of that, I know for me, it was a big struggle, like, for a long time, my parents didn't know anything about me. Like, you
Mm.
couldn't ask them, like, what type of things she likes. They couldn't answer real have a real honest answer about basic things about me, and so for me, that was a big thing, like, do you believe in talking to children?
Mhm. Mhm.
Do you tell children to sit over there and just stay in a room all day in color, and then, like, it could come out and eat and please go back to your room, or do you spend time with your kids?
Mhm.
And not just, like, taking the places, are you talking to them about their day? Do you know whether they like music? What type of music? Who's their favorite artist? Do you know what their little personality is actually like? That was a really big thing for me, and a really big part of gentle parenting for me was, again, some of y'all know, I grew up as a pastor's kid, so there was a lot of certain expectation on me. So also another thing was, like, letting my child be my child.
Mhm.
And this is one I'm gonna use, like, a silly example, but this was one that was, like, hard for me because, like, especially I feel like as a Black mama, I feel like there's so much pressure being a Black mama, especially a Black mama of a little girl, of
Mhm.
like, "Why your baby hair looking like that? Why you let your
Mhm.
baby come out like that?" But my daughter,
Mm.
like, right now is going through a phase that she don't care about colors matching, and she very much wants to dress herself.
Mhm.
And it is so hard for me.
Mm.
Cause I grew up in the mind, if you grew up in, like,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
'80s and
yeah.
'90s, you grew
Yeah.
up with, like, "Why you
Mhm.
looking like this and your baby looking like that?"
Mhm.
But my daughter right now, she's going through a phase, she loves tutus, so it's
Mm.
just me and her, and
I love
her
that.
little lime green top, a
I
purple tutu over jeans, some
I love
some rain boots, and I'm just
yes.
like, "Okay. Alright."
I wanna be that parent so bad that's just like, "Wear it, baby. Put your cape on. That's what you
Hard.
really go." Um, but I feel my mom was that mom because she used to always say, "You're not gonna be walking behind me looking tacky."
Mhm.
And it didn't matter because my mom could be like, "I'm gonna throw this jacket over my pajamas and we're gonna go to the store." But let me try
Yep.
come out the house and my hair wasn't done or my clothes was wrinkled or something. She was like, absolutely not. You're not about to be out here embarrassing me and have me looking crazy. And I get it. Like I fully I feel I have a teeny tiny baby and I still feel that I'm like, oh no, people see him without socks. They're gonna think I'm a terrible mom. Let me make sure that I even though he's gonna kick him off
Look,
and I'm gonna lose one while we out. Make sure I'm gonna try to put him on him for now until he can have a say so. I do understand, but I also I hope to be that parent that's like, yeah, you want to wear your Batman cape? Put it
look.
on. Let's go.
And it's so hard because, like, Neek has a daughter, and her daughter, my daughter, like best friends, and so they do trips and visit each other all the time, and her daughter likes dressing really, really girly, so sometimes we'll all go out, and she'll have on this, like, like, just super cute, like, bell bottoms and, like, just this really cute outfit, and my daughter like, "Oh my gosh, she looks so cute. Look at my rain ducks." Has big duckies on them. She'd be like, "And my dad's hoodie," and I'm like, "Girl, your dad is like 6'2". 230, you 7, you can't wear your daddy's hoodie. Like, it's hard. It's hard, and I find myself always just trying to be like, "This is her childhood, and I want her to grow up in her childhood and be able to say, 'My mama supported me, and my mom let me be me.'" And I
Mhm.
think when we're talking about gentle parenting, like, to also remember that part is not just the not spanky part. It is the, again, when we're talking about raising emotionally intelligent children, self-aware children, I can't raise you to be emotionally intelligent, self-aware, in touch with yourself if I'm constantly trying to push who I want you to be on you.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
don't think we always consider some of the things we do as pushing our beliefs about who they should be on them. And sometimes it's just little things. But I know for myself, again, pastor's kid, there was a lot of things I felt was really, really pushed on me. And I think it's why I went so hard in my rebellion stage. And don't get
Mm.
me wrong, I feel like no matter what, your kid's gonna have a rebellious stage, even when you're like, "I gave you nothing to rebel against."
Right. Yeah.
I think that's just a part of growing up, feeling the
Yeah.
need to be like, "I need to frustrate my parents." Um, but I want as much as possible to make it so that, at least in my household, you never felt like you had to hide who you were. You had a
Mhm.
safe place to explore being you. And I think about, like, I was watching this TikTok earlier today, and there was a girl who is like a black goth, and she was talking about how, like, she used to have to, like, sneak and be a goth. She was like, "I have to pack my make." She was like, "I would go to school at, like, 5 a.m. so I could do
Oh
my
my
makeup
gosh. Oh
and
my
change
god.
my clothes and stuff." She was like, because she grew up in a Christian household. She was like, "And I just
Yeah.
she was like, the Jesus, I plead the blood.
Mhm.
I'm not
Mhm.
doing that." And she was talking about, she was like, she's like, "Y'all got these clip-ins. I've been made clip-ins." Cause you remember when you used to have the black on top and then in the bottom your hair was like red or blonde or something. She was like, "I was the original person that created clip-ins because I couldn't wear them at home." She's like, "I would go to school." And she was like, "And then I would clip up my hair to make the little bob. Then I'll put my colored clip-ins in." But anyway, she was talking about that, and she was just like, and her mom's whole thing was like, "This is a phase, and I'm a plead the blood, and that's not who you are, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, and here I am, 38, and I'm still goth because that's who I always was.
Story get me. I'm not gonna get started, but yes, yes. You were like, and I came out the exact same way. So no, there's a girl I remember I went to middle school with whose parents made. We did not go to a school that required a uniform, and her parents made her wear a uniform. And she used to, of course, bring her clothes in her little backpack, get there, go get dressed, change out. But they would also randomly pop up at the school to make sure she was in her uniform.
Take my
Crazy.
control.
Craziness. Um, yeah, let your kids be who they are because, but also, even when it comes to exploring style and things like that, I know we've talked about this, like the struggle of just like finding your own style as an adult, but also like when else are they supposed to do it? I hate when people are like, "Oh, she's too young to have that color in her hair," and then when she's grown, you're gonna be telling her she can't find a job because of the color of her
Mhm.
hair or something stupid like that. So like, let them explore it when the consequences are low. Like, what? Who cares?
At
Who
all.
cares?
At
I
all.
hate when schools have stupid dress codes about that or things, but like they're freaking kids, man. Once they get out into the world or whatever career fields, which the professional workforce is definitely changing and is a lot more
Mhm.
accepting than it was
Mhm.
when our parents, I think it was changing as we were like entering into it. Cause I know my mom would have these moments. Like I had red, red hair
Mhm.
when I was in high school. I dyed my hair really red. And my mom was like, "You'll never find a job now." I'm in high school. I don't care. But guess where I got a job at? McDonald's. And every other job I had after that, I've never had an issue.
The chokehold that having red hair had on millennial women, black women especially, because I too had red hair, bright red. And then same thing, I got to college and I had to do internships, and they was like, "You're never gonna get internships." So I left a streak.
Mm-hmm.
I had a red streak that I kept in my
Mm-hmm.
hair. Like, fine.
Girl,
Oh.
I had purple. That's why I said I think it was changing then because I remember one of my supervisors, she had crazy red hair too.
Mhm.
And I was like telling her how bad I wanted purple hair. And she was like, "Go to my girl. She'll set you straight." And I had the best purple hair
Yeah.
in college. It was purple, pink, red. It was all types of different colors. And I ain't never been unemployed.
Yeah.
Uh tattoos, never was unemployed, even though that was definitely a thing where my mom was like, "No one will ever hire you. You keep getting no tattoos."
But you know what's
And
so crazy is that was a huge thing for me because for a long time I only got tattoos in places that were hidden because that's what my
mhm,
parents told me as well. Also, my parents
mhm.
told me they weren't gonna pay for my college anymore if I got a tattoo. So my first two, I had to get it hidden places because I didn't know how serious they were about that.
Mhm. You're
And
like, "I
so
don't
I
wanna
got
find
two.
out."
And then I turned 30 and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting visible tattoos."
Yeah.
I got like 3 visible ones now, and I plan to get more, and I'm just like, "No, I just let let me express self." But also used to get like, "'Cause you wanna be old with tattoos?" Yes. Yes, very much.
'Cause
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
happened?
that's why I want it to be permanent because when I'm older, I want it there.
I want them to still be there. Thanks so
Yes.
much.
I thanks for your concern. But I do wanna go back to what you said about expressing yourself when you're young. I think that is childhood should be my safe play area. Like, if
Mhm.
the whole world is a game of tag, childhood should be base. This is where
Mm.
this is the place you should don't have to worry about people tagging you. You ain't gotta worry about people running out to get you. This is your
Mhm.
safe place. You should be able to explore here. And especially with like the hair, I won't lie, I struggle with this myself because I once sent my daughter to the hair store with her dad. And I was like, okay, y'all take because he had took her somewhere and they were taking too long. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to take her to hair stores. Y'all gotta go to the hair store before you drop her off. And she somehow convinced her dad that I was like, "Yeah, you can get Jamaican colors, the Jamaican flag as your hair." She came back with 3 packs of hair because I was doing braids, single twist in her hair, red, green, black, and yellow. And I
Mhm.
just sat there like, "Why? Why would you why would you think this was okay?" He was like, "Oh," he said, you know, every now and then he liked to throw something. He's like, "You be with that hippy dippy shit. You have to let her express herself." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And now, like, my child, she has had blue, she has had pink. Matter of fact, her and Janique's daughter, one time we were taking them, they're actually gonna be in Atlanta and they were spending the weekend or whatever. And they love Powerpuff Girls. And so my daughter got blue, her daughter got reddish pink, and
Mhm.
she wore a blue outfit with her blue hair. Her daughter wore a red outfit with her reddish pink hair. It was
Mhm.
so cute.
Mhm.
Um, and but here's the thing, and then it passed. And now
Mhm.
she doesn't care. Now she just wants regular. She's like, okay, I did it. That was fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't want that no more. And it's
Look
like,
at
okay,
that.
cool.
You can move
And it
on.
bothered nobody. No one was hurt. She
Mhm.
had fun. It
Mhm.
wasn't grown. People very much could tell she was still 7 because we also
Mhm.
throw that out there because that's grown.
Please. 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 Um, but when we talk about, because we're specifically talking about gentle parenting the black child,
Mhm,
like a safe space is so important in this world
mhm,
where we know that non black people
mhm,
have a hard time seeing black children as children and
yeah,
treating them as children and allowing them the freedom to just, be kids instead of viewing them as a problem or a threat as fast or whatever other mess that they want to put on our children. And it's like, yeah, that to me makes it even more important for home to be a safe space.
yeah,
And I think, over in previous generations, it was overemphasized of like, well, because the world is harsh towards
mhm,
us and our children, we need to be basically rough on them first. I'm gonna show you
yeah,
tough love at home. I'm
mhm,
gonna be the first one to show you this or the whatever. Or I beat you and it hurts me more than it hurts you, and I do this because I love you. It just
mhm,
sounds abusive, but anyway, I do this because I love you.
mhm,
It hurts me more than it hurts you, but I have to show you this here so that you can go out into the world and hopefully not, get harmed by police or you won't get knocked down by these other entities. And it's like, but because there is a risk of that happening, that's why to me, that's why
mhm,
home's supposed to be safe.
yeah. And can I just say though, like, it really did hit home and touch me when you were saying that because you're right. That's exactly the same conversation abusers use
Oh
when
yeah,
they're abusing their partner.
yeah.
I
Look
mean,
what
to
you
be
made me
like,
do.
this look what you made me do. I mean, hard on you because they gonna be worse on you out there.
Might love you, but me.
But I agree with you. I feel like that's why, and I get it. Like, it's a matter of I'm trying to keep you safe. And I think it is a projection. I know a couple word a couple episode we did like last year. We were talking about like when you have ideas to do stuff, and sometimes you have people speaking fear into you. And you were telling me a story about a family member of yours. You were talking about like I think it's when you were trying to move, and they were like, "But you don't know nobody out there," da da da, and everything. You're like, and I had to recognize that was just their fear. Like that was what they were afraid of, and it wasn't that they were hating. It wasn't that whatever. It was like they thought they were protecting me because this was their fears, and I feel like that's how for a lot of Black people, we have been parented. We have been parented out of fear, and it it's not like it's from nowhere. Like, you have reasons
Yeah.
to fear. You have reasons to be like, "Dang, it is a scary world out there. I need you to be aware how scary it is." You don't have the luxury to be naive. It's
Mm-hmm.
being naive as a Black child can cost you your life.
Mhm.
And I get that and I respect that. But again, like you said, I think it makes me even more want to be like, and that's why home should be safe.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I, especially in therapy, like I speak to so many people who are getting their first sense of safety in their 30s and 40s.
Mhm.
That should
Yeah.
have been developed in childhood. The first time, like, especially I do a lot of attachment style stuff and we're getting into healthy relationships and they're like, what is this? And what is like, oh, this is what love should feel like. It should feel safe. Oh, this is what it feels like when you don't,
Mhm.
love doesn't feel anxious. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel like you need to avoid things. You need to hurry up and run away. And you can practice safety at home and still teach your child how to protect themselves when they're out there in the world.
Mhm. And there was a time
Mhm.
where it was that extreme, and I'm
Mhm.
not making light of the issues that Black people and Black youth face today, but there was definitely a time it was worse,
Yeah.
and we know that. And like you said, where it felt like, okay, I don't have the luxury to slow down and explain this to you and teach you this. So I need you to learn that if you step out of line, you're gonna get hit. And if that's the fastest way that I can get this message across to you, then that's what I'm gonna do.
Mhm.
We don't have to live that way anymore. I think that we can take time and enjoy the freedom that we have to gentle parent our children.
Yeah.
One of the other things that the woman I was talking about, I wish I could remember her name, Lord have mercy. She brings up the point of like, we talk about how slavery removed all of these cultural things like, oh, we don't know our history. We don't know anything from Africa. We came over here, they took everything, blah, 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 stripped it from us. So why do we think that we kept beating children? We took that that didn't come from there.
Mhm.
That's our point. It's like that did
Yeah.
not come from the motherland. Of all the things that were stripped from us, why would that be the one thing that we keep? No, that was put onto us when we were brought here. I think of that, I'm like, damn, that's a really valid point because you're
Mhm.
right. Like we lost all our other history and culture. Why would that be the thing that we keep? That's
Yeah.
something that was here. That is something that was embedded in us through slavery, through the abuse of religion, through lots of things.
Yeah.
Why do we want to keep this? Why do we want to hold on to it so bad?
Yeah.
Let that shit go. Let it go.
One of the things I really liked was like a couple of years ago, maybe like 2022, 2021. Like there was a trend going on social media of Black boy joy, and I loved it
Mhm.
so much.
Mhm.
And you will see in like on the videos, you will see like Black teenage boys frolicking,
Mhm.
galloping, skipping in fields of flowers. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that for y'all.
Yeah.
And it was such to me a great and positive movement, and I love to see that because I'm like, even I'm in my 30s, even in when I was in high school, like you couldn't frolic. You, as a Black boy, you couldn't frolic in
Mhm.
a field of daisies. You couldn't.
Mhm. Mhm. That was gay.
Yeah. The other boys, they was gonna make a thing about it.
Oh Lord.
Daddy was probably gonna make a thing about it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is coming from like we are creating safe spaces. And I feel like online we talk about that a lot. We're creating safe spaces for Black women. We're creating safe space for Black men. Let's make sure we're including our Black children in these
Mhm.
safe spaces that we're creating.
Mhm. 100%.
And one of the things I really hate when it comes to like talking about like gentle parenting is like I feel like it gets that weak label.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, because y'all doing that. And the truth of the matter is, it is hard as like gentle parenting is hard.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Getting the
It
belt, spanking them, sending them to the room is easy.
it is. Mhm.
But it is hard. It's hard when a 7-year-old wants to debate to you about her bedtime. It's hard when it's summertime and the sun is still up, even though it's 8:30, and you are trying to you are trying to but the light's not down. How am I supposed to go sleep? It's very bright out. It is very hard to do those things when it can be very easy, like, because I said so.
Mhm.
But creating critical thinkers is hard.
It's hard being the calm person when everyone is losing their mind.
Mhm.
I know for me, I learned this because for a long time I worked with youth a lot, and I realized like I never put my hands on anybody else's kids, and we still get what needs to be done. Of course, they don't live with me and all that, but we still do what we gotta do. And I've been in some situations where them kids be cutting up, and you feel like maybe, like I've had that thought in the back of my mind, like maybe if I just really let them know that I am bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
maybe they will stop trying me.
Working with other people's kids is not for me. I'm very much
Girl,
aware. I love my children. I
girl,
love the ones that come from my womb.
Lord.
Sometimes just babysitting other people's kids got me like, yeah, yeah.
No, girl, they have it so hard. But yeah, it's something else. But yeah, to be the calm person when someone
Mm,
is having a full on fit and
mhm,
having to be like, okay, whoo, and be the one to take a deep breath so that you can guide them through the end of this. That takes hard work.
mhm,
Um, Planning ahead of your child, knowing, okay, as soon as they wake up, I know they're not gonna be thinking about this, and not gonna do that, but I need them to do one, two, and three. So what can I do on the front end? Like back in the day when I used to teach parents, and getting up earlier than your kids is something I talk to them about all the time, because if you are waking up, rushing, running late, and you start rushing it through the day, you're pissed off, you're, all this other stuff, like then you don't have the time to slow down with them while they're having a meltdown, or you're rushing them.
mhm,
Like the amount of times I've had that conversation with parents, like maybe your kid just isn't a morning person, and you waking up at the last minute and rushing them out the door is why they're having a fit.
mhm,
But being able to like be two steps ahead
mhm,
is really a huge part, I think, of gentle parenting too. And that takes so much freaking work and patience. And yeah, like you said, it's easier to just be like, either do what I say, I'm gonna hit you. I'm
mhm.
bigger and I'm stronger. I'm with you, and that is it. Like, yeah, that's an easy lesson to learn, as opposed to you having to be the one to lay out those steps for them and
Yeah.
guide them from A to Z. Like, I get that it's exhausting. Another thing too, and I learned this because the program I worked at, we didn't allow corporal punishment.
Mhm,
And so a lot of parents would come in and be like, "Oh, she trying me because she know I can't beat her."
mhm.
But when we took away corporal punishment,
Can I just say quickly though, even as a parent who doesn't spank my child, that crosses my mind
sure,
at least once a month. Like, you try me because you know I don't believe in beating you. Okay. Okay. Okay.
you
Fair
testing me
point.
because you
Fair
know you're
point.
safe.
You know you're safe.
I get it. I get it. Again, I work with other people's kids, and they know you can't touch them, and you be like, oh, "You're trying me." But anyway, one of the other things that we realize is how many times people use it just when they're like angry, like you're not actually using
Yeah.
this as a form of discipline. You're just hitting them because you're mad.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't view it that way. But when I would tell parents like, "Oh, you can use timeout," and they're like, "What timeout? I put them in timeout, it doesn't work." And then you really break it down. It's like, no, you're putting in timeout because you're annoyed. They were annoying you. So it wasn't that they did something wrong or they were having a fit and they needed a moment to take a timeout and reset. They were getting on your nerves, and so
They
you
was
told
five
them.
being 5.
Yeah, and you told them to go get in the corner. Now, if you was allowed to hit them, what would have happened? Then you just hit them just because they're irritating you or
Mhm.
because your fuse is short. That's not the same as actually like disciplining, teaching a lesson, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that's what makes to me doing it the other way, gentle parenting, harder. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, you
I
can't,
I agree.
like you said earlier, you have to be so much more aware of yourself and of your emotions to be like, okay, there's a difference between me being annoyed and the child being annoying. Like,
Look,
like doing something.
man. Man.
You come home from work, you tired and overstimulated, and they talking a mile a minute. Like that's not
Mhm.
that's not a them thing. That's a you thing, and it takes a lot to recognize that and be like, what can I do
Yeah.
that I don't crush my child's spirit in this moment?
Even like Halloween just passed. Of like, is it Halloween yet? Is it Halloween yet? We're gonna go trick or treat. Can I put on my costume? Can I put on my costume? And you're like, I just saw 9 people back to back tell me the most traumatic story I have ever heard in my life. If you don't sit your behind. But that's a kid being a kid.
Hmm.
And I think also with that, like, not even just spanking, but like, I think watching how you talk to your kids, because I saw a TikTok earlier, where the woman said, for those of you who did not get it, apparently there's like some poem. It's like
Hmm.
well-known poem. She was like, the poem where it goes, if you grow up in a house with an angry man, you'll always have an angry man in your home. And she was like, and I know some of y'all was in the comments like, not me. I changed the pattern. My boyfriend is soft. She is gentle. She's like, how many of y'all are the angry men now?
Mhm. Yeah.
She's
Mhm.
like, that's what they were saying. Like, okay, your partner's not, but are you now the angry man? And I think about that because I think about like my child had an issue with a child that was like bullying her last year, and I had to go into the school about it. Because my child grew up in a safe household. She didn't grow up with 7 brothers, so she wasn't out here fighting. And so
Mhm.
she's just a lovey-dovey person.
Mhm.
And so she was talking to me about it. And of course, as an adult, I can't tell my child like, okay, drop kicker. Because that's wrong. That's a but that was going in my head like, "Girl, two-step it." But I couldn't do that, so I had to, like, talk to her teachers, and, like, I had to find and, like, I was like, "I'm gonna talk to this child's parents, like, bring her mama up here," and I had to find out, like, she was experiencing stuff in the household, and the school was aware of it, and they're like, "Yes, we're having the trouble with this child and several other children," and they're like, she's going through some things at home." They actually probably told me way too much more than they had to, but it was just also, again, one of those reminders, again,
Mhm.
the way you speak and act towards your child, it does not stay in the household. That child takes
Mhm.
it and carries it with them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And do you want them to carry with them the fact that you hate your job?
Mhm.
The fact that you hate your marriage, that you hate your life, and now it's their problem because now I'm taking out on you because I'm 5, being 5, but because I'm angry and you're being 5 when I'm already angry, well, guess what? You about to get anger. Well, now you are passing that anger on to that child. And not only are they carrying it, they're now taking that with them in school. They're now taking that with them in relationships. They're now taking that with them in life. And especially when we talk about the for Black children, we already are labeled as aggressive. Black
Mhm.
men, Black women, we're already looked at in the world as aggressive. We don't need to be teaching them how to be more aggressive. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we have this thought and this mentality. And this is something like I really had to struggle with because sometimes I know with myself, I always worry that I'm making my baby too soft. She's just so sweet. She's so sweet and just kind hearted. And like I grew up with 7 boys. Like my brothers were dropping me off to fight grown women when I was 13. And so like the fact I won't even lie though. I did tell her dad, like, we gotta put her in boxing or something. Like, just in case stuff pop off. I want her to know how to defend herself.
Gotcha.
Um, but I think some of us, again, because of our perspectives, because of things what happened in our childhood, in our lives, what the world was like when we were growing up, we're like, I wanted them to be a little bit aggressive. I want them to be blah blah. But like, we don't need to be teaching them aggression. We need to be teaching them how to manage their emotions.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you don't need to use fear to do that.
Mhm.
That's not teaching them to manage their emotions. That's teaching them to be anxious. That's not teaching them to manage their emotions. That's teaching them to fear their emotions. And
Mhm.
we do such a displeasure when we are teaching our children that violence gets you. And I want to use the word violence particularly.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about just spanking. I'm talking about what our words are we
Mhm.
violent? The way we interact with them, is it violent? Is it an emotionally unsafe place?
Mhm.
Um, we are teaching them violence when we are using fear, when we are using cussing out, when we are using do it because I say so, when we are using spanking and stuff as our tools, especially when it's your main tool.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you're not gonna slip up. And I think also that's a big point we want to make here. Ain't nobody saying you ain't gonna slip up. You gonna have your bad days.
Yeah.
I have my days where I'm just like, okay. But also afterwards, like, are we repairing? After I
Mhm.
yelled because I told you I'm in session while you keep knocking on my office door while you know I'm working. Once I get done, I got done yelling, crap, my bad. Are you going back? Mommy didn't mean to yell. Mommy
Mhm.
should not have used that voice.
Mhm.
That was really inappropriate. Mommy is very stressed, but that is not your fault. I apologize. Now,
Mhm.
let's go talk about though how you know you're not supposed to knock when mommy's in session. You know about that. You know the rule. I tell you, unless it is emergency. And also, you
Mhm.
got 2 other adults to go to in the household before you reach me. Then we do
Mhm.
that. Are we going back over those things or do we yell and just leave it alone? Are we yelling and then being like, well, I'm gonna make you your favorite food? Are we yelling and be like, okay, get in the car. We going to Dairy Queen. Like, are we practicing those
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people love yelling.
Word.
I remember a mom telling me, like, the way she, I remember the way she phrased it was when I do my yelling. And I was like, what do you talk to me about that, ma'am? Because, you don't have to yell at them. And it was like, for her, it was like I guess at a time of day, it's like she gears up for it. Like, I'm gonna get to yelling so we can get
Mhm.
these chores done. But at some point, they just was really sick of hearing her yell and was tuning her out completely. And I'm like, that's why. But who want to listen to that? Who wants to listen to that?
Can I just say, and I want to throw in some like realism there. I only got one baby, and I get it. Some of y'all got five, under the like five. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, how's somebody supposed to get them under control, baby? I don't know. I don't know. That was you and your husband's mistake. I don't know why y'all did that. That seems ridiculous to me. I don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the whole purpose is like, but can we try? Can we actively
Oh,
try and put
yeah.
the effort forward to kind of restrain ourselves? If you restrain yourself from cussing out your coworker, why can't you restrain yourself from cussing at your child?
100%. 100%. Just like you
You
said earlier.
restrain yourself in other areas, so you have the ability.
Yes. Why is your family, just like you said earlier, like your child should be the person you want to treat the best? Like,
Mhm.
why are people in your household the ones who get the worst of you? And I hate that logic because a lot of people are like, well, I got to, put on all day. I'm not going to put on when I get home. Yeah, you should though. When you come home, your family, the people that have been waiting to see you all day, that love you and all that stuff, they should not be the ones getting the worst of you. Just like you said, if you can show restraint, when Tammy, your coworker, come and say some slick shit,
Mhm.
and you think, "Ooh, I gotta keep my job. I'm not gonna cuss her out." You need to be thinking, "Gosh, I gotta keep the relationship good with my family, with my loved ones at home. Let me not cuss them out, cause Lord,
Yeah.
moments with my partner where he does things and I pause and I think he don't deserve it. He don't deserve that. Breathe and find another way. Just say
Mhm.
it." And that's okay. It's
Yeah.
good that way because that's the same thing I would do, like you said, at work. That's the same thing I would do with anybody else in the world. I don't go out in the streets fighting folks or cussing everybody out. I gotta use that same
Logic.
redirection, yeah, and same logic when I'm at home with my loved ones. Yeah.
And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be put it on. I always recommend when people are like, "Oh, we're thinking about having kids, and how did you know you were ready?" First of all, I wasn't ready. I found out I was pregnant in my second trimester.
I just don't yeah.
I was in my second trimester. I was in grad school. I found out I was pregnant. I was like, "I am what?" The doctor tried that morning. It's a total surprise. But I will always recommend whenever, like, I'm talking to someone about it, like, "Oh, okay, well, what would you recommend?" Try to get as much healing and work done because one, your kids are gonna probably trigger you
Oh yeah.
more than anything. And sometimes it's not them, it's just now being a parent, the circumstances, situations you are in when you are a parent trigger me. And I had to come to a point where I'm like, either I change
Mhm.
or now this is life. And I didn't like feeling stressed and anxious all the time. I was like, okay, so I have to change. So it doesn't even have to be putting on. It can be okay. And I'm thinking about it more so like how many of us, again, like for some men, it's like, I gotta stop stupid through his phone. I'm gonna learn how to be more trusting as a partner. I'm gonna learn how to blah blah. You can learn how to be a calmer parent for you, calmer for your child. You can learn. It doesn't have to be I'm putting on. It can be let me actively work to heal this part of me, and so that anger is just not a natural part of me. I don't have to feel like I'm putting on. Anger now
Mhm.
feels foreign to me. That when I do get in anger, it feels weird. I do have to stop. I do have to have a minute and be like, "Yo, ooh, mommy is sorry." I,
Mhm.
my bad.
Mhm.
I don't even know where that came from. To me, anger should feel foreign to you as a parent.
Mhm.
And I think also just going back to and how do I know I'm ready? Also, do check-ins on if you are willing to make those sacrifices. And if you're like, well, nah, because then I personally feel like rethink if you wanted to be a parent
Mhm.
and do parenting.
It's really a good point, even just about healing your own stuff prior to being parent, but just healing your own stuff in general. Like a lot of us grew up in households where our parents may have done a lot of things.
Mhm.
And when you first start exploring that and you realize, man, that wasn't cool, or I didn't feel good about that, one is remembering that two things can be true at the same time, as in, yeah, your parents didn't do everything right, but there was still love in your home,
Mhm.
or they still loved you. But you can also acknowledge that, hey, some stuff wasn't right.
Mm.
And sometimes when it comes to that realization, like it can come with a lot. Like be be kind of ready. Like it's okay to confront those things and really embrace it and feel out your feelings about it. And I think that's like a really good part of just healing from it. I know
Mhm.
like I had to have that moment with myself of just realizing like, damn, that was abuse.
Mhm.
Not necessarily my mom, but I was in other households where, yeah, that was abuse and it was really not okay. And I had to really come to terms with that. And that was a big part of me being like, oh, absolutely not. I'm not recreating that cycle at all.
Mhm.
But I had to, it was a lot to process, but then also to find a way back to your family after you process those things. Cause sometimes you process a lot to the point where you like, y'all feeling some kind of way towards you.
Mhm.
And everyone doesn't have the type of relationship where they can talk about those things with their parents. Like thankfully, my mom and I've been able to have certain conversations of like, hey, everything went all the way right.
Mhm.
But also I recognize she was in her 20s
Mhm.
and what the fuck, you know, she's doing her best
She was
in
still
her
learning
best.
how to be her.
She really was. She was growing up. It was a lot going on, you know. And the same like you expressed with your parents earlier, I recognize that they lost a child during my childhood and
Mhm.
that significantly impacted them and the attention they were able to give to me. Like once you're grown, like you get so much context of life that you can apply and you can understand things differently. And I think it allows you to let go of a lot of any resentment that you may have had towards your parents. That doesn't mean that wrong ain't wrong and right ain't right. Like
Mhm.
that's real. Some stuff is just wrong. It just is what it is. But you can add nuance and things to that, you know, through your own lived experience, but also accept they could have did something different.
Mhm.
I think once we accept that our parents could have done something different, one, does come with some sadness at times, but it also empowers you to do something different in your own life.
Yeah. Because here's the thing about it. It's not about shaming your parents or being like, "Ugh," because y'all
Mm-hmm.
and again, you might have like Ashley said, you might have some feelings come up that's like, but y'all was 42. What was y'all doing? Like, y'all should have been grown. Y'all should have healed that.
Mm-hmm.
That might come up and it's just about recognizing that again, both things can be true. I grew up with parents who loved me, who were trying their best, but there were certain things that did cause damage nonetheless. And I don't have to repeat those things. And one of the things I like when I'm thinking about gentle parenting, especially when you break it down, like, no, I'm modeling for my child empathy, I'm modeling for my child critical thinking, I'm modeling for my child emotional safety. When you really think about it, I feel like that is how you create revolutionaries. I feel like telling a child to sit down, stay in a child's place, that's how you raise children that grow up silent, that grow up waiting for permission to speak, and being in a world where they're left unheard and thinking that that's normal, that's their place. Gentle parenting says, no, your voice matters. And it encourages your child to speak up and encourage your child to challenge systems because I created safety for you. You challenge systems that don't feel safe because I know what safety feel like. What y'all got going on here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how you get children that are entering to healthy partnerships. That how you get children who are healthy partners and healthy friends for others. Again, it's going back to this idea that gentle parenting is weakness. No, it's not. It's probably one of the biggest sources of building strength in your child.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, try to heal as much as you can before you finish.
Please.
And look, healing's a lifelong thing. I'm not saying it has to be all done. My healing journey started when I had my child. I recognized very quickly, like, I need to change for both of us. I need to change. So if you're like, dang, she already 13, it's too late. No, it's not. Start the healing process now.
Also, have you ever met anyone who wasn't spanked when they were growing up? I know people personally who and
I
they're
know none, but tell me,
They're
tell me about these
I know a
women.
couple, right? And they're fine. They're solid people.
Oh, great.
They have careers and life and they're nice people.
That is so right. Thank you for telling me because like this was like a hope and a wish over here. So I
No,
appreciate you. I appreciate you. That
no,
was my
I mean,
assumption, but I didn't
yeah.
know.
I remember one of my friends telling me it was like my dad never yelled at me. I was like, what? Never been yelled at? You was not spanked? What's solid
You
guy.
weren't parented with guilt and anger? What is that
Solid guy.
like?
Encouragement and love. One of my best friends, nope, never spanked. Hell, my sister, my mom's never spanked my sister.
Yeah.
And she's a good freaking kid. She's
Yeah.
16. She's responsible. I don't even, she's just a good kid in general. And it's really interesting. It's like, wow. So, yeah, there are people in this world, if you get a chance to talk to them. I tried to get one of my friends to do, I was like, can you do a podcast episode? Like, I really want to interview your experience of not getting spanked. And she was like, no. She does not want to talk. But
I don't
still,
wanna
I'm
throw
like
it in y'all
fascinated.
face how good my childhood was.
I am fascinated by the concept, and I would love more people need to share about it because look, it's so many people online sharing about their shared trauma. Like, ooh, when you don't take chicken out the fridge and your mama come home and slap you, ah, ha, ha, and they laughing. Like, if you were a person that was like, speak up, share. We need to hear your story.
No, I know we're talking about kids, but also, like, if y'all can share some stories of love, that'd be great too, like, if we
Yeah,
can especially if you're Black, if you could be like, "Hey, I'm a Black woman being loved properly." If you can, like, share that to the masses,
yeah,
that also would be great. Let's push some of the positive stuff that's going on out there as well.
people don't want to hear that. They be in your comments like, you're probably getting cheated on.
I mean,
Like,
probably, but that's not the point.
see, right there.
That's not the point.
I am a Black woman
We
getting
will ride
cheated
for you when you find evidence 6 months from now, girl. Let us have hope until then.
on.
I mean, and here's the thing. We get it. You might still be thinking, okay, but what if my kid is acting a damn fool? And like, I hear you. But here's the kicker. Genital parenting doesn't mean your kids run wild. It's about teaching them consequences, again, without leaving them emotional scars. So, yeah, they might not get the switch, but they will get consequences, but consequences that make sense. Consequences that they can learn from and they can grow from. Not consequences that just teaches them fear. It doesn't always have to be that I'm taking away your Nintendo because you failed a math test, but more so like, let's figure out why you keep failing these math tests in the
Mhm.
first place. So next time someone's side eyeing you for not spanking your child and sending them straight to their room, for daring to talk to them like they're actual human beings, like they're people. Remember that you are now a part of the quiet revolution and you're breaking generational trauma. And I think that's something to be proud of. So, guys, that is all we have for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed. Follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy. Follow us on TikTok. We're working on the TikTok, guys. TikTok is playing in our face, but follow us on there. We
Mhm.
post up on there at She Wolf Alchemy Podcast. Leave us a review. Leave us a review with words wherever you're listening. Like, share, and we'll have a new episode for you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.